It's Dominique, aka That Therapist. For those of you that don't know me, I am the lead clinician and CEO for a group practice known as Yellowbird Counseling. What do we do? Well, we provide individual, couple, family, and group counseling in the states of Alabama, Florida, Louisiana, and Mississippi. So if you live in any of those states and you need individual, couples, family therapy, we got y'all. We got y'all. So definitely reach out. I'll put the information for that up later. But please share. Please share this live again. This is a continuation of the series that we've been doing for Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, which is this month, the month of July. Yay! Every July is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. And so, of course, every year I make sure to do some educational campaign of some sort to help educate the community on why we could all benefit from a therapist outside of simply just having a mental illness. Because y'all know how y'all think, oh, something is wrong with me, or nothing is wrong with me, I don't need a therapist, or what's talking to somebody gonna do for me, or only crazy people go to therapy. So what we do here every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time is we discuss topics that the general population can relate to and tie it back to how we could all benefit from a therapist, not just those of us dealing and managing our mental illnesses, okay? While there is a space for us called therapy, there is a space for people that don't have mental illness, or maybe their mental illness is managed and they need more coaching. So that's called counseling, okay? I already did a video on the difference between therapy and counseling. So you're gonna have to, sorry, Instagram, you're gonna have to click on the videos, but also I can put it on the website, our new and improved website. So for those of you that have not seen it, you're going to want to go over there because there is a discount code up there for the YBC brand shop. So you're definitely going to want to go over there and check it out. Okay. Check it out. Let us know what you think or whatever. I help. I didn't completely do it, but I help. I put my little 2 cents in, you know what I'm saying? It came out looking real nice. So go click on the link in my bio, either on Instagram or if you're on Facebook. You could just go to Yellowbird Counseling and click on the website. It'll take you there, or if you are not on social media, simply just go to Google and type in Yellowbird Counseling. I promise we will come up, all right? I made sure of it. So you can go to Google and click on and just type in Yellowbird Counseling, and then you can click the website that way as well, all right? Cool. So again, like I was saying, this month is Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, so I have been tailoring the discussions to speak to my folk in the if you want to call it POC, BIPOC, African American, Black, all of it's the same. Okay, so if you are part of that community, this discussion is definitely tailored to you. However, you're not a part of the community, that's okay, because you can still benefit from the content. And you may have someone on your page that's a part of the African American community. So you can share this live, okay, to your page or your group so that somebody can get this information. Again, it's not just for us, but it is tailored specifically for us this month, because I be on these social media platforms and see what y'all be talking about. And a lot of times I just be shaking my head like, oh, someone should tell them. And so instead of me commenting on everything, because social media is very draining for me, so instead of doing that, I just create discussions to help aid in the process of emotional maturity and human development. So that is my contribution. All right. So tonight we're going to be talking about boundaries, okay? And that's a discussion that I've done a couple of times before in a couple different ways. So here is a third way for you that I'm going to discuss boundaries. And this is a continuation of the prior two topics that we had. So last week we talked about self-accountability. The week before that, we talked about communication, effective communication, and we're going to build up to healthy reciprocity. So y'all can, once you're done with your hot girl summer, then you can implement the tools or figure out what tools maybe you might need more assistance with, and you can take those to your therapist, work on that so that you can be your best self to be ready for a relationship, okay? I know that people really, really want to be in a relationship. It's like one of the number one things people desire. They put it on their vision boards and everything. So I want to do my part to help y'all get there and understand maybe why there could be a struggle in these areas for us, okay? So for people that have been subject to 400 years plus of dehumanization and trauma and just, being treated like less than human, then traits start to get passed down through generational traumas and for those of you in the religious community, you want to call it generational curses, okay? There are the generational curses, but for the rest of us who are, in the mental health community or just in the general population, maybe not religious, we call it generational trauma. So there's behaviors that we have learned for survival, for the purposes of survival, okay, that have gotten passed down in our families and our friend groups, and with the African American community being just that, a community, there is a large tendency towards groupthink for us, which is not bad. There's a large tendency towards groupthink for all humans, but for us, because we value family and community so highly, then it makes passing traditions down a little easier. So whether that be good or bad traditions, okay? So when we talk about boundaries for maybe people that are, let's just say maybe, I don't know, that's a relatively new concept for us to embrace as an African American community, because boundaries have not been a thing we've been allowed to have, whether that be socioeconomic settings, whether that be, well, definitely non-political settings, and then family settings. Everything, we can have very enmeshed family systems where what's mine is yours, what's yours is mine. We don't have no secrets. You tell me everything about you. You tell me you can't close the door in the house. Like, we just have so many communal thinking models that makes boundaries and the definition of boundaries a little difficult sometimes. Now, again, for those of y'all talking about, I have boundaries. Okay, if you have boundaries, great. I'm talking in general. I'm talking about treatment that has been passed down in general. I'm not, targeting you. So if you have already arrived at that point of developing boundaries, great. Share this live to your page for the friend who is not there yet, okay? Share this live in an effort to help them, all right? So what are boundaries? And you guys would be very surprised, maybe, or maybe not. Most of the sessions and work that I do with many of my clients revolves around boundaries and how the lack thereof has directly contributed to the distress of their emotions, and maybe I won't even say impairment, but maybe the distress of their mental health as well, or the stress of their mental health, because boundaries it's like a bad connotation or something, because if you try to say, don't come in my room, then you being mean to your little brother, Or if you say, if someone asks you for some money, if it's a family member, and you say no, oh, you're just being mean, oh, you're just being selfish. Newsflash, you cannot be selfish with the thing that you made or the thing that directly belongs to you. So your body, your brain, your resources, all of that directly belongs to you. If you choose not to give of that to someone else, that is an okay decision. And that is not very widely accepted. You're being selfish, or something's wrong with you if you decide that you want to have a line between you and someone else, or if you want to draw a line on what you're willing to give, or what you're willing to receive. How about that? What you're willing to give or receive. So definitely we want to first highlight the fact that having that level of boundary is okay. It does not make you selfish. It does not make you whatever other negative term, someone that wants what you have or wants to partake in your resources that you don't want to give them, whether that's your mama, your auntie, your grandma, your cousin, your son, your daughter, your husband. If there is a line that you have said, no, this is not okay, this makes me feel unsafe in mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, materially, whatever, this makes me feel unsafe or it makes me feel uncomfortable, you are allowed to draw that line right there, regardless of what that other person thinks, because it doesn't affect them. And if your boundaries and theirs don't line up, well, then maybe y'all might want to both reflect on the relationship and see if it's something that you can amicably engage in. All right, so we'll cover that. But what are boundaries? Again, boundaries are a limit. It's what divides you from something else or one thing from another thing, and where you can tell the difference between something. So with humans, of course, your boundaries would draw a line between you and someone else. And emotionally, that can make more sense because some people are very like to be intertwined so emotionally that maybe there is no individuality in the expression of emotions or expressions of self. That happens a lot to people, intentionally and unintentionally. I work with a lot of moms that say, I have, like, who am I? I feel like I've lost myself in being a mom or being a wife, but that's not always who I've been. But because there's no clearly defined line between wife and mother and self, then it's almost as if they feel guilt behind trying to find their self and draw that line and make it more apparent. So we work a lot on that in therapy. What does that look like? How do I do that? How did those blurred lines develop? How did I lose my boundaries? That's also important information, because from a cognitive behavioral perspective, we want to know what the origin is. What is the incident, and I say incident, which is more of EMDR, but what is the situation or circumstance that caused you to develop this particular core belief that your everyday thoughts are filtered through, that guide your emotions, which in turn you express through your behavior, responses, and expressions. All right. So, again, fundamentally, on a very basic situational level, we have not, as African Americans, been able to establish that level of defining line for ourselves, whether that be personally, whether that be in the community. So boundaries are lines that divide two things from each other. So what does it look like to share your boundaries with someone else? What does that look like for you? Definitely tell us in the comments, what does that look like for you to, hey, it's draining for everyone. You're exactly right. If you don't establish boundaries, it can drain you and the other person. Boundaries definitely isn't taught enough to children, which is why many of us have struggled with it. Exactly. Oh, no. No, it's more like, no, you do what I say and don't question what I say do. All right, you just do what I say. Don't ask no questions. If you have something, it's mine. It's not yours. You're borrowing it. So that kind of that kind of narrative has really caused it to be very difficult to establish boundaries, because you, one, don't think that you're yourself, and you don't think what belongs to you is yours. You think it's someone else's. Your body's borrowed, your brain's borrowed, your things are borrowed, and someone else can always take it from you because they bought it for you, or they bought you into this world. So because of that, and it was crazy. I was doing a session with a client, and they were explaining to me how they were stating a boundary to a family member that was older. And they utilized the word boundaries. And the older family member was like, boundaries? We never got to have it. What is that? Like, we never get to have no boundaries in our house. Like, literally saying it like, how dare you try to have a boundary? That's disrespectful. We didn't get to disrespect our elders with having boundaries. That's not disrespect. It is a human right that we should all have the liberty to utilize when we want to at any age. Now, of course, a child, their boundaries may be a little bit more restricted because they still need someone else to take care of them. But as an adult, when you are doing your own thing and living, your own life, and nobody else has to care for you necessarily, then you get a lot more say so. But even that's hard to believe, because I have adults that'll tell me, I can't tell, that don't live with their mama, have their own house, pay their own mortgage, and cannot tell their mama no. All right. So that's a big deal. It's a big deal. Yes, I hate when parents say that. I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. And it's such a thing that just rolls off the tongue for us to say. And it's like, no, like, you can't hold over the fact that someone else's head that you brought them here like they asked for that. You don't know. You don't get to choose my existence and then make me pay you back for it. Like I had a choice in the matter. No, that does not negate the fact that just because you brought me here, I can't have boundaries apart from you. So that is a myth, and that is a misnomer that we often continue to perpetuate. And so I'm here to say, no, that's not how we do it. So boundaries have to be stated up front. This is how we're communicating our boundaries. You have to state them up front. And for those of y'all, like I promise, the types of things that my clients think that they were supposed to cover on a first date, and the things they actually do, like the things that are important to really cover on a first date, people are like, no, that might sound like I'm thirsty or pressed. No, if you want to know if a person plans to get married or not, that's a fair question to ask. You're not saying, hey, do you want to marry me? You're saying, hey, are you interested in general in marriage, whether it's with me or someone else? That's fair to know. Hey, like, how do you feel about spirituality and religion? Like, that's a fair question, because people have a lot of hard boundaries in those areas. And so if you just let your emotions get the best of you and let your eyes get the best of you for whatever this attractive person is that you see in front of you, then you neglect to see if they even fit within your boundaries. They may not even fit. Like, this person might just look good, but they might not be good for you because y'all's boundaries don't align. So you want to state them up front, and you want to maintain them throughout, which is also very hard, because people love to guilt trip you about your boundaries. Man, I would be like, really? People still try to do it to me. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this for these reasons. And you don't even have to give that if you don't want to, but this is my boundary and that's what it is. And people steady try to tell you that's not your boundary. Sir, ma'am, how can you tell me what my boundary is for my person that I have to take care of? Whether you exist or not, I'm going to be left with myself. So how are you going to tell me what boundary I should and should not have? Like, you don't get to tell me that. It was literally a dude doing that last night. When I went somewhere, I was like, sir, what business is it of yours if my actions, if I choose to do what I choose to do and it does not affect you at all, why do you think you have a right to put your mouth on what I choose to do with my life? Like that? No. I don't care. Again, I don't care who it is. You do not owe anybody a spot in your space at all. You can choose who you want in there, and you can choose what you allow them people to do in that space. And if they don't like it, guess what? They are welcome to leave. That's just how it is. And then, you know, we talked about the difference between boundaries and ultimatums, because people are like, well, what if that sounds like an ultimatum? All right, first of all, I don't think an ultimatum is a bad thing. It's just an appropriate way to use it. All right, so I've also done that. You can go back in the archives and look at that. But again, going back to the original point, boundaries have to be stated up front and maintained throughout. You have to communicate them verbally. People cannot read your mind. They should have known. Well, they should have known. How should they have known if no one told them? No. Now, if it's a general thing, like they should know not to shoot somebody in the head, yes, okay, yes. But for your personal boundary, nobody's going to know unless you verbally communicate it or put it in written form, whatever. But utilizing the communication and the language that you and that other person use, you're going to have to communicate what your boundaries are and make them very clear, okay? Nobody's going to read your mind. It's not a thing. It's not a thing, okay? Maybe sometimes people have some, you know, clairvoyancy about them, but in general, no, to expect someone else to just know, that's not a very realistic expectation. So you have to communicate them. There has to be a space of compromise, okay? So boundaries, what makes them different from barriers is that they are flexible. So there has to be an area of compromise as well with your boundary, especially if you're in a relationship of any kind with another person, okay? Because you guys aren't the same people, so you're not going to have exactly the same desires all the time. But in order for a relationship to work out, there does have to be compromise. So, you know, you can be flexible with it. No, you don't have to compromise your safety, your if it compromises your safety, your or your well-being, no. I'm not saying that. But you know, the example for couples counseling. So if there's one person in the couple that likes to do outside date nights, let's just say that, and then there's another one that likes to do inside date nights, and neither one of them really like the alternative, and they're you know, they may have stated up front, hey, I like doing outdoors activities, and the other person said, well, maybe I like doing indoor. So then the compromise could be maybe they do one outdoor, one indoor, and have, you know, or maybe 1 week they do an outdoor, maybe 1 week they do an indoor, you know, and compromise, because the greater characteristics of that person matter enough for you to provide that kind of compromise. Nobody's getting hurt. Nobody, like, it's not anything like that. We're not talking about that, but just, you know, maybe it causes you to stretch a little bit. And you have to commit to it. You can't just roll up in a boundary and kind of roll back out of it. Because if you've established a boundary, you've communicated it, and then you don't uphold it for yourself, then you start to sabotage yourself like that, and betray yourself. And then we start having issues with other things. Okay. Not always, but if it's intense enough and goes on long enough, it could lead to depression. So let's not do that. Let's commit to what we say we're going to do for ourselves. Just as much as you would commit to something that you say to someone else, you have to commit to yourself more, actually. All right. So what kind of boundaries are there? Well, we have physical boundaries, which anything that has to do with your person, you're allowed to make a boundary about that. So whether that is in regards to sex, whether that's in regard to any type of touch, not even just sexual touch. If you don't like giving hugs and you like giving handshakes, that's your free will to say, I'm not really a hug person. I like doing handshakes. And if the other person doesn't like doing handshakes and they like doing hugs, then the compromise would be maybe y'all just wave and say hello and don't touch each other at all. How about that? All right. If you can't agree on a mutual kind of touch that you both are comfortable with. So you're allowed to say that it's not me. And I don't even care if it's your mom. If you're like, grow up and you're like, actually, Mom, I don't really like being hugged. And she's all like, but I'm your mother. How dare you? It's your right to say, I don't want you touching me. Keep your hands off of me. All right. It's your right. Let's see. I noticed guys that are 40 and up. Yeah. That is a whole nother live, Toya. That's a whole nother live, but yes. So yeah, we got physical boundaries. And you're allowed to express what does and doesn't make you feel safe or comfortable. Emotional boundaries. Oh, this is where that generational trauma thing comes back in, because within that, with the generational trauma, there's big T trauma. So there's your sexual abuse, your physical abuse, your very apparent verbal abuse. But then there's your little T traumas, which I think are just as traumatic, where there's coercion. Okay, you're coerced into doing something, you're guilted into doing something. If you share something, it's not private, it's being shared with the rest of the family. If you say no, then there's you're being shamed for that. So you have a right to establish an emotional boundary and say, no, that's not okay with me. If you're not okay with when I say no, then we don't need to engage in conversations that, allow me to say no. So that means don't you ask me for whatever it was. Don't ask me for it because I'm going to say no, you're not going to like it. So the compromise is just don't ask me, ask someone else. So, again, you're allowed to decide what kind of energy you want to put out and what type of energy you want to receive back for yourself. With emotional boundaries, it consists of respecting and honoring feelings and energy. All right. So there's another thing. Expressing your emotions. People love to demonize that. Like, oh, you so dramatic, or oh, it's so much. And people really like to whine and complain about somebody expressing their emotional boundaries. And that's because we've just been socialized to think that level of expression is bad, or it's overwhelming, or it's dramatic, or it's too much, or it's sensitive, or it's healthy human adult communication to be able, and not even just human, okay? Because I know that I'm gonna teach my kids very early on. These, give them words for their emotions or help them develop words for their emotions so they can use those words and say, hey, when you yell at me, that makes me feel sad. Or when you play on your phone when I'm trying to tell you about my day, that makes me feel angry. You know, that's okay. That's an emotional boundary. So being able to respect and honor not only your feelings, but the feelings of others. All right. Of course, time boundaries. If it is not a convenient time for you to do something, you can say no. Or even if it's you don't want to do it, maybe that's your self-care time. And your self-care could be literally laying on your couch looking up at the ceiling and cackling like a hyena if you wanted to do that. Okay. And if someone calls you and asks you to do something or come somewhere and you are busy laying in your bed with not a thought in your head, that is okay. That is all right. It is okay to do that. And I know that that is a very hard concept to grasp when you've been raised to think you don't have your own time. You don't have, your time is my time. If that's what you've been told your entire life, then thinking that you can set that kind of boundary is going to cause you some sort of guilt. And that would be a reason that you would want to go to therapy to process that. Okay. You will want to be able to process that. What does that look like? And how do you move forward in establishing that time boundary? Of course, sexual boundaries. And I would hope everyone would know that no is no. I don't care how far into or out of the act you are. If it's no, it's no. At any point, it's no. And it's just no. Okay? But you are allowed to say what you do and don't want sexually, what you do and don't like sexually, what you will and won't take sexually. You can do that. And it is your right to do so. All right? And so maybe I see that being a thing to work on a lot in couples counseling. But if you notice having some concerns in that area of being able to establish sexual, I've even had clients say, well, if they take me on a date, then that means that I gotta have sex. No, you do not. No, you don't have to have sex with nobody for nothing. Okay? If you don't want to have sex with them, if it requires you to have sex with them in order for them to take you out, then we might need to reassess the type of people that you like taking you out. All right. And so we would do that in a therapy setting. We would do that. But nah, you don't got to give up nothing you don't want to give up, especially if it belongs to you. Okay. Intellectual boundaries. This is about to blow y'all mind that you can have an intellectual boundary. You can. Your thoughts, your ideas, your curiosity, you can have a boundary on that. You can share it and don't share it when you want to. Now, that does not mean do not communicate in a relationship information that the other person needs in order to be successful in the relationship. That's not what I'm saying. That is not what I'm saying. So let me stop you right there. What I'm saying is whatever your thoughts are that don't affect anyone else, that don't affect your relationships, you have a right to share and not share what you want to. If you're past, you have a right to share and not share what you want to. Your ideas on things that you want to do, you should establish boundaries around that. What it looks like it's going to be different for everyone. And that is another area that would benefit you to receive counseling for. And you could definitely give us a call for that. But your thoughts, your ideas, your curiosity, you have the right to share and not share as much as you want. We definitely encourage not oversharing because that can be harmful. So if something is harmful for you, we do want to take a look at how the amount that you're sharing, because oversharing can be harmful for you. Material boundaries, your items and your possessions. And again, this is a place where guilt can be established or shame if you don't want to share something, because we're always taught to share. And so, I mean, sharing is great, but you also, if it belongs to you, then you are free to. Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter, take your. Y'all know how Mr. Carter is. Acting up. No. Mr. Carter probably started pottying in the house because that's what he does. He'll just pop a squat, start pottying, and I'm like, what are you doing? So, anywho. All right. And then, okay, I'm going to give y'all very generally how you begin to establish boundaries, because that is going to be the next question. Okay, so I know what boundaries are. I know I got to communicate them, but how do I know what to communicate? So, first you got to reflect on yourself, what you want and what you desire. And a lot of people don't know that because they haven't been allowed to establish their wants and desires. So, just not having the freedom to do so. So you do have to reflect, and there is structured self-reflection that you can, definitely get into. And that is when we're establishing boundaries with my clients in therapy, we have structured exercises that help them self-reflect. And some exercises are bigger than others. There's exercises for people that have never been used to self-reflection, and then there's exercises for people that have been doing self-reflection for a long time. Of course, start small. Don't try to go and share everything with your boundaries with everybody all at once. Now, I have some people that have done that and it's benefited them, but generally start small. Start with little things, and you may need help identifying with your therapist what those little things are, but start small. Set your boundaries. Again, here it is. State them up front. State your boundaries early on in whatever the relationship is, because it gets harder and harder the longer it goes. And if you try to tell somebody 2 years in you don't want to get married, and y'all been together 2 years and this other person's boundary is they want to date for marriage, y'all got a problem. Y'all got a big problem. So y'all might as well have just shared that on your first date, and maybe y'all would be in two totally different situations at this point. So share early. Be consistent. Do not, if you say, this is really for parents. If you say something, follow through with it. Do not go back, because if you do, again, that's going to make it harder for you to establish that boundary. You got to follow through no matter what your emotions are telling you. If you're going to take the PlayStation for a week, by golly, you better take that PlayStation for a week, because if you only take it for 2 days, and then little Johnny knows that you only going to take it for 2 days, next time he not going to care about what you're talking about. All right. So be consistent with your boundaries. Create a framework. Again, there's exercises that we do in therapy to create a framework of what your boundaries look like. And I've shared one of the exercises that I do with clients with y'all before, but definitely is helpful in knowing exactly what your boundaries should look like. Feel free to add to it, or again, boundaries are flexible. So feel free to add and take away what you want when you feel it's necessary. Be careful with social media. Social media always tell you, people be oversharing, be telling you what to do and how to do it and all that. So be careful with social media. Make sure that you verbally communicate, that you talk, that you tell people what your boundaries and expectations are. And then lastly, give yourself credit when you do that. Like, congratulate yourself for implementing and maintaining a boundary. And then allow yourself to gain other perspectives about the boundaries as well. Allow yourself to gain other perspectives. So, awesome. What y'all think? What y'all thoughts is? And if you know, you know. What is today? No, because we did it last week. So, yes, I've learned sharing too much earlier in a relationship is not good. Cool. Yep. I'm checking because y'all, let me see. Let me check something out real quick. Let me see something. Cause y'all be making me think. All right. Let me see something. Okay, that's what I thought. So that reminds me, if y'all want to know when we do our $100 Cash App giveaways, you've got to join the newsletter, and you need to join the text community, because then you'll know exactly when I do random $100 Cash App giveaways throughout the month, and you'll know if you're on those things when it is. It's not today. We did it last week. It's not today. All right. So y'all got to be on the newsletter to know. All right. Y'all got to be on the newsletter to know. You got to be in the text community to know when I do it. Let's see. All right. Well, cool. Please share this live. Again, we're going to have our last installment building onto this. And again, the areas that you find yourself struggling in, definitely contact us. And here we go. Let me put it up. I'll put it up for you. Here you go. Text the word new to this number, and we can get you set up with therapy and or counseling, whichever one is most appropriate for you. We could get you set up with one of our several therapists on staff that can, that would be the best fit for you. We'll figure out which would be the best fit. The first way that I determine the best fit is, first of all, what ethnicity of therapist do you like? That's very important. So what ethnicity and what's your insurance type? Based on that, I can narrow it down better. Okay. So text the word new just to that number. You'll be set up and we'll get you going. Again, if you live in the states of Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, or Florida, we can serve you. All right. Soon to come, Georgia and Tennessee, but not right now. Got to be in those other 4 states. Okay. All right, cool. Share this live, and that will be your contribution to Minority Mental Health Awareness Month, because you have now helped educate someone else. So share this live on your timelines and your groups, so that way that someone else can benefit from the information. Let's see, did I answer all the questions? I think I did. I believe I did. All right, well, I will see y'all next week. And until then, please be safe and stay dry and stay hydrated.